Welcome to ChitChatChai, episode 2, where we chit, chat, and have chai.
Oh, man.
So on today's episode, we have a special guest today. We're going to be speaking about a unique journey through life. It's a journey about a person reverting to the faith of Islam. So, Musa, I'll let you introduce yourself. We also have Amin here as well.
Hi
My
again.
name is Musa. I'm a revert to Islam. I reverted in 2020, so it's been 3 years. I reverted from Christianity, and
Nice. All right. So in today's episode, we're going to go through the journey. So we're going to start off with a bit of a background into what your origins are, where your family's from, what faith you belong to. Then we'll go into how things started to change from that moment, and then we'll go into what your journey's looking like now. So if you want to kick us off, why don't you introduce yourself with a bit of your background?
Yeah, so my background, for anyone that's wondering, because most people are always confused, I'm ethnically Sri Lankan. My family's a bit odd because my mom's side is Christian, Catholic, but my dad's Hindu. However, my mom raised me and my siblings as Catholics. Went to Catholic school, went to Catholic secondary school. So I was always quite, I don't want to say limited, but I was always just seeing the same community.
Yeah.
I didn't explore other communities. And then when I went into sixth form, that's when I left the old group of people I used to see, and I would see more Muslims, and then that's where the journey started.
So you were going to Catholic school. Was that here or was that in Sri Lanka?
No, I was born here. I was born and raised in London. I've actually never been to Sri Lanka, so that's on my bucket list. But yeah, I've always been in London, so I went to Catholic schools here in East London. So yeah, I've always seen the same sort of community.
Always around that community, yeah.
Yeah.
And what was Catholic school like as well? Is it, because we have no exposure to the Catholic schools, right? What kind of things do they teach in the school?
It was I would say for the most part it was good. They teach good morals, good values. It's very rich in its tradition of you pray, you go to church. I can never say anything bad about what I was taught and what I was raised to be as a Catholic at the time.
And it was all based on predominantly the Bible and
the Bible, and obviously there was a lot of leeway for to accept different kinds of people, but generally speaking, I had a good experience actually. I can't say I had a bad experience or anything like that.
That's really good.
Yeah.
All right, so we spoke a bit about the school. So as you were growing up, what was your relationship with faith like? Was it something? Because me and Amin, we spoke about this before, where we were Muslim by name for a while, and we didn't really understand how we engage with faith.
Yeah.
How was it?
I think for me it was. I wouldn't say. By no means I wasn't a scholar in Christianity. I wasn't a knowledgeable Christian at all. I knew obviously bits and bobs, and I knew the foundations of my religion. But I knew I was a very person. I was someone that was strong in my faith. I was someone that believed in a God, believed in a higher power, and I always used that as a way to get me through life, get me through my difficulties, my hard times. And that, from that, I always had an interest in philosophy, and I always had an interest in, those questions that we all ask.
Yeah.
Where's the stuff? Yeah. Where did I come from? Where am I going? Everyone always asks that, and I feel from a very, very young age, I remember always questioning that. I wasn't okay. Even in my own belief, I still felt like it was necessary to be fair to myself and ask, okay, why is it like this and why is it like that? So I was always questioning things,
Who did you go to when you had these questions?
So for a very long time, I didn't know who to go to. I genuinely didn't know because I was always just a bit shy to go and ask someone. I felt like I'm offending someone if I asked them, why is Jesus God, or why is Jesus the Son of God? I genuinely felt like I was, gonna make someone feel a certain type of way. But when I went into sixth form, that's when I started going to these lessons. So for those who don't know, in Catholicism, there's 3 stages. So you have baptism,
Yeah.
which I'm sure everyone knows. Then you have Holy Communion, which is where you actually drink the blood and like the body and blood of Jesus. So you have like wine and you have like
Right,
bread.
okay.
It's not actual wine. They
Yeah.
just put like a little bit and add like more
It's
water.
not actual blood either, right?
God no. And then the last part is confirmation, which is where it's like an initiation for you to get married in the church.
Oh.
So confirmation, the way it's done is that you do sessions with a teacher. So this is where I started to ask the questions. This is where I started to ask and inquire about like why the beliefs are the way it is.
So is that a marriage to the faith, or is that marriage like
Marriage to like a person.
So it enables you to get married.
Yeah.
In the church.
Yeah.
So before you went into sixth form and you were trying to find, like you were trying to find some answers, and you said that what was the thing when you're allowed to get married in the church?
Yeah, so the last stage of being a Catholic is confirmation.
Confirmation. And when do people usually confirm?
Usually people do it when they're 13,
13.
13, 14. But I did it late. I did it when I was like 17. So I did it when I just entered sixth form.
Yeah. Okay. And what's the general ruling on that as well? Is it like whenever you feel like you're ready to do it?
Yeah, like when I did it with my siblings, but then we also did it with another group of people, and they were all like adults.
Yeah.
So it really depends on when you feel like you're ready to do it. Yeah, there's no age.
And what was the reason that you didn't want to do it at 13? Was it?
No, it was just I just didn't do it. Like my mum never spoke to me about it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So just randomly when I was going into sixth form, she was like, "Oh, you need to do this. You need to get it done."
Yeah.
I was like, "Okay." Yeah.
So you mentioned that you're asking your priest some questions as well. And what were those questions like around?
So this links with sixth form because when I went into sixth form, I obviously met, I'll go in more detail about it, but the friends that I made gave me questions about my religion.
See.
And obviously I didn't have the answers. So what I would do is I'll take them and I'll go straight to my teacher and I would ask her, like, what, can you explain it? Can you give me some answers? So the general questions I would ask are, can you explain the Trinity? Can you explain the Bible and, what the claims are against it, i.e. like the contradictions or who the authors are, why there's different versions of the Bible, etc. Those are the questions that I would pose, from a like, educational standpoint. I wasn't personally trying to, come out like, my teacher. I genuinely wanted to know.
You wanted the answer, yeah. So I have a question, because you mentioned that your pa is Hindu, right? Did you ever lean towards like Hinduism? What were the answers within Hinduism or the journey there as well?
Yeah, so when I was really young, my mom did take me to temples, but thing is with temples it's a bit interesting because I didn't actually go there to like worship or pray at all. I remember I just went there for free food.
That was amazing.
Yeah.
And those the sugar cubes.
Yeah, those sugar cubes they gave it, like, yeah, no, I had no bad experiences. Like they just gave free food. They still do. Like I would always go there and just take it. Me and my brother we'd go in, and then there's always like this massive basement room they had where they would just be serving food to people.
Nice.
And we just took it. So I know. Yeah, I never had a bad experience with temples. In terms of understanding, the religious like part of it, I personally didn't have an inclination towards it. I personally always had a thought of like, there's only one higher being. I didn't ever think of multiple gods. So it never really crossed my mind. However, the aspect of, meditation and, that sort of, Zen sort of side to it did interest me to an extent, I won't lie. I even remember, again, whilst I was at sixth form, I did visit a few temples and I would, again, take the free food, but I would also sit there and just reflect and just think, about life and, what is my purpose. So it did have a part to play, but it wasn't the major, it wasn't the major role in my church.
The Neasden temple.
The what temple?
The temple in Neasden.
I went to a massive one. It's a new one. It's in East London. It's literally made out of gold.
It's a little bit far from East, isn't it?
But the one in Neasden, they have this massive marble construction, and apparently volunteers all made it, and it is one of the most incredible structures I've ever seen.
I've only been to 3 temples in my life, and they're all like local.
Okay.
I haven't been to any more than that, so.
All right, yeah. The free food is good at the ones that he went to, though.
Yeah, they actually were. I can't lie. All vegetarian, yeah.
All right, so it seems like Hinduism, like you're interested in the meditative side of things, but not necessarily in answering some of the questions that you had with Christianity. So then, now that we move into like sixth form, like it seems like your friend group drastically changed, right? So you have like other opinions feeding into it. What were the key kind of themes of things that they were asking you?
Essentially, they just asked me again, like, you know, why do you believe in what you believe in?
Yeah.
They were encouraging me to question it.
Yeah.
And now that I'm a bit older, you know, they're trying to encourage me to just think on my own and not just follow, you know, what your parents have taught you. And from that, I was really encouraged by them to, you know, research more. I would end up going home and watching YouTube videos on Muslim versus Christian debates.
And
You know, I won't lie. I was genuinely swayed towards Islamic beliefs, especially when I learned about Jesus and how Muslims view Jesus. That really, you know, that was something I never learned in Catholic schools. They never taught me about Islam. They taught me about Judaism and Christianity, but Islam was just foreign.
Okay.
You know, so I was always like, when I heard about Jesus and he was a prophet, and they got a whole chapter about his mother, I was like, wow, okay, this is really interesting.
Yeah, he's taken quite seriously in Islam. But I find it crazy because even in, so like you must have had like RE, right? Like
Yeah, religious study, yeah.
Islam wasn't touched on there.
No, it wasn't.
No way.
Literally not at all.
It's crazy because it's like one of the biggest religions on the planet.
Yeah.
But did you look into like Buddhism and those kind of religions too?
Yeah, so my country is actually a Buddhist country. So it's a Buddhist country. So I'm not saying I'm like an expert at that either, but again, it does link with Hinduism to an extent. It does have those like similar values. But again, for me, it was always about what's my ultimate purpose, what happens after death.
That's the big one, right?
Yeah, and I just feel, for me personally, I don't feel like it answered it to how I felt like it should be answered. There was not much emphasis put on those. It was more so about living in the moment and, you know, working on this life. You know, and that for me was just like half of the answer. It was like half of the cake, you know.
So then where would you go to find some of these answers as well? Like you mentioned YouTube.
Honestly, just talking to other people, you know, getting their ideas and getting what they think. So I'd always talk to like my friends. I had Buddhist friends as well. So I'd ask them questions. And again, I just felt like there wasn't that much of an answer, you know?
Was this, so you know your friends in sixth form, was this a sixth form part of the Catholic school as well, or was this completely separate?
No, so this was a completely different sixth form. After my GCSEs, I just left that school and I switched schools. So.
And most of your friends were, like, what was the diversity mix there?
So in my Catholic school, it was all Christian. When I moved to, there were some Muslims, but it was mainly Christian. When I moved to the sixth form, it switched all the way to like all Muslim.
All Muslims, yeah.
Your friendship group was all Muslims as well, or?
Yeah, like in sixth form, just had Muslim friends.
So I think some of the things that I know, like a lot of Muslims like question about the Trinity, right? That how can there be a Father, a Son, and also a Holy Spirit? Was that something that you were going through as well?
It only crossed my mind when a Muslim questioned me about it. Like for me, I never thought about it that deeply. I was always like, yeah, that's just what I believe in, you know? That's just how it is. And it was when a Muslim really like kind of put it on me, and then I was like, okay, this is something I need to think about now. But I'll get back to you on it, sort of thing.
Were there any other areas that provoked your thought as well, around your own belief in Christianity?
Bible, like the contradictions and the different authors, who are they, where did they come from, the different versions of the Bible, because at the end of the day, that's where your religion stems from. So for me, it was always a urgency for me to like look into it more.
So how do the authors work in the Bible? Because I know there's the Old Testament and the New Testament.
So New Testament is obviously for Christians only. Old Testament goes back to Judaism.
Okay.
With the New Testament, you have the four main authors. You have more than four, but the four main ones are Mark, Matthew, Luke, and John.
Yeah.
And those are all like disciples of Jesus.
I heard a lot of stuff about John.
John the Baptist, right?
Yeah. So no. So this isn't John the Baptist. This is another John.
Okay.
The issue is that, again, from my own research, there's not much information about them
As disciples.
as disciples. Only Matthew is only Matthew and John are direct disciples.
Yeah.
So Luke and Mark, they're disciples of disciples.
Right, I see. So
So
they're
they're
not,
another
they
generation.
don't have that direct.
Yeah. So even that, it made me question like how reliable
That sources.
is what's being said, because again, I've seen contradictions. I've seen one verse say this, but then another verse in another part of the Bible say something completely opposite to that. So then, again, you're putting your life and death and your afterlife on this book.
There's a common argument. How can it be the word of God if it has contradictions? Like,
Exactly,
how can
yeah.
God make mistakes?
Yeah, exactly. For me, that's not a joke. That's like serious.
It's not a joke, yeah.
I can't just sit here and just accept. Well, there's contradictions, and I'm just gonna accept that because my parents
Yeah.
say it's the truth. Like, no, I have to actually investigate. And I think, and I encourage everyone to do the same. Like, that's how life should be.
So it must have been so difficult for you, right? Because you've grown up in this Catholic environment for so long, and now people are asking you questions, and you're trying to get answers to them. But even then, you're still not convinced with the answer, right?
100%. Yeah.
So when you used to go to the priest and you used to ask him, like say for example the Trinity, like, can you explain the Trinity? And he would explain it with like the books and stuff. But how would that leave you feeling afterwards? Like, even if you were feeling confused then, what would you do after?
For me, like when I would ask, my teachers and priests, deep down I did feel upset. I did feel like, I've been raised to believe this. And when they tell you stories and you believe it and you have that emotional attachment to it, like for example, the crucifixion of Jesus, and you believe that to be the truth, obviously that's emotional. You're investing emotion into that. And then for you to then find out through your own research, for you then to conclude that that is actually not the truth that I believe in anymore, that would break your heart. That would just hurt you, and sometimes it's hard to process. And for me, it was not easy. It wasn't like, oh, this isn't right, so I'm going to accept Islam now. Yeah. That's not how it works. Like, for me, it took pretty much 2 years for me to really just think about it and process it, and it took a long time.
And what were the key parts of that journey, right? Because you said that it took 2 years. So as you started sixth form, is this your whole duration of sixth form that you're questioning it?
So during my first year,
Some crazy A-level time, man.
man.
Imagine having to find yourself and do 3 A-levels.
Yeah, it's crazy. I was actually doing 4 initially, and then I dropped one. I was doing maths, bio, chem, and physics.
That's
Crazy. I know, I did all 4 the hardest, but eventually I dropped physics. But I remember my first year, I was genuinely confused, and deep down I felt as though my Muslim friends were making logical sense. For me, obviously I was a bit stubborn, and I didn't want to accept it straight away. And I remember, for me, just to kind of get away from that, and I'm sure you've seen videos and you've probably spoken to people when you talk about religion, and I'm just like, oh, I don't want to talk about this anymore. Like, I don't want to talk about religion. I forget this. Like, that was my mindset, and I was just like, I want to escape this. So for me, I would spend my time doing things that would get me off that, living that sort of temporary, like seeking pleasure sort of like lifestyle, to kind of just completely numb myself of what I've now concluded.
I have a question. So when you watch these Muslim videos, these guys in Hyde Park, and they're just like
Speaker's corner.
they're just shooting people down. The thing that I realize is when Muslims speak, they try and use logic and like reasoning, right? But when Christians speak about things, they use emotion. So it's very difficult for a logical person to speak to someone who's running on emotion, right? And that's where I think that conflict comes, and where you can become a bit like, oh, I don't want to talk about it because it's making you feel a certain way rather than making you think or like reason with it. How were your friends like when they were like approaching this topic as well? Was it like, oh, this is how it is, like check this?
Some like my close friends actually weren't that like onto me about it. Only one of them was, and he was like the main guy that I would always debate, and it would just be me and him back and forth, like Christian versus Muslim in school. And you know, I could criticize the way he approached it, but at the end of the day, like that was his way, and I'm not gonna, you know, at the end of the day, it got me to where I am now. So, but my two other friends who were Muslim, they were so just chill. They were so just, you know, I connected with them on a different level. Like I connected them. What I saw from them was just the values and morals and the etiquettes of being a Muslim, as opposed to all the logical and, you know, arguments that Islam brings.
It was more like you're seeing their example and understanding it.
Like I was more attracted to like their just how they carry themselves. So yeah, my friendship, like I had different friends. Like some friends were more pushy about it, and then others were just like, no, like don't worry about it. You know, we're just here to chill and just enjoy ourselves.
So that's actually kind of interesting. So could you like explain like some of those characteristics of how they carried themselves that were different to like the experiences you've had?
This is my like favorite example, and this is so true. Like when I was chilling with my old friends, for example, if they went to buy me food, just for example, they would demand when and how much I need to return.
Oh, they'll be like,
you need to pay me back now, like, and they would message me, like, call me, you know, that you need to pay.
They'll chase you.
Yeah, with my Muslim friend, and like I always had that mindset of like, okay, if I'm taking something, I'm gonna give it back to you. When I was with my Muslim friends, like, without me even knowing, they're buying me food. See, I'm a foodie, like I just love food, so. They knew my weak spot. Yeah. And they would buy me food, and I'm begging them like, let me pay you back. And they're like, no, like, don't pay me. Like, I'm doing this for you. Like, and I'm just thinking like, wow, like, what? Yeah, there's actually people out there that will feed me when I'm hungry. And I was just like amazed at how like, you know, for me, for them, it might seem like a little thing. For me, that's a massive thing, that you're that willing to just give me something like just food, which is one of my favorites, you know, and
here's a samosa, bro.
yeah. Here's a chicken wing. Just read a bit more about Islam when you get home. Yes, sir. Yeah. No, but and then like one thing as well was they would invite me to their house all the time, and then we'll go to their like back garden, get like pizza, drinks, and we're just talking about life.
And everyone's just eating that. Yeah.
Everyone's just eating, and the thing that really like amazed me, and this is like going towards like my end journey, but or like my current journey now, but the way they were giving dawah, I believe was the best way. They didn't talk about religion. They didn't talk about, oh, like we need to talk about Islam and we need to convince this guy. They literally treated me like a brother, and all we talked about was just general stuff, like sports, like movies, like, you know, just life. Like, oh, what happened in school today? Oh, this happened, and, you know, like, oh, did you do the homework? And like, we're just chilling, we're just talking about regular stuff. But the whole time I'm assessing all of them, and I'm just thinking, like, wow, like, you guys are just amazing. You know, just your character's enough for me to accept it. You know, I don't need to hear no more. I don't need to hear about you. Oh, the Bible says this and the Quran says this. I don't, like, bro, like.
You just saw it through the example.
I just see it through you. You know, and I like, that is the most powerful way of like inviting someone to the truth.
Exactly. So for all the listeners listening to this, if you happen to be Muslim, the best way to get them is through food, you know?
To bribe someone.
So one thing that I like the contrast of, is you're talking about like your Muslim, like the friends, right? And they're inviting you to the house. That's a massive thing, right? Yeah. And they're giving you food and they're feeding you and stuff. But you know, when I think of like my vision of Christians and Catholics, they all seem so happy in my head, right? Like everyone's so happy, loving. If you need to talk to them, they'll be like, yeah, we're happy to talk to you. But is that as far as it goes? They don't invite you into what their world is like? Like what's the contrast?
I can't speak for all Christians and say, you know, every Christian is different. I do think a big part of, you know, you being a Christian stems from your culture and your background, you know, like, because I agree with you. I see that as well. Even in my workplace, I see that. But you know, that could just be, you know, one aspect of them. You know, they're just showing you what they want you to see. You know, just like on social media, people put out their best version.
Yeah.
Doesn't necessarily mean they're happy. So I think to answer that question about, you know, are they genuinely happy? Perhaps they are.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, they will always have to live with the fact that there are questions that are unanswered. And what I notice is that the people that are happy, or they seem happy, they tend to fill that happiness with temporary things. So I see a lot of non-Muslims, they just get into relationships. You know, and when they break up, they get into another relationship. And then when they break up, they get into another one. It's always having to fill that happiness through someone else. Yeah. You know? Or it might be, you know, an addiction, you know? And that keeps them happy. That keeps them, you know, smiling. I felt like that as well. I felt like I would always portray myself to be like that, but deep down I was still always battling those deep questions that no one can answer. Yeah. So it's really just perspective. It's really how you see things.
That's quite deep, man. All right, so you're coming to the end of sixth form now, and like you're seeing like your Muslim friends. They're inviting you over. They're feeding you, and they're not taking your money as well and stuff like that. So at what point did you decide, oh, okay, like I want to understand why these people are like that? Did you ever challenge your Muslim friends as well?
Oh, 100%. I would always ask them questions. I would always ask them, you know, what does Islam say about this? Like really controversial questions. I would ask them straight away. Oh, it says kill the non-believer. Explain it. Like I'll say it. And then my close friend was very knowledgeable. He studied his religion and he had the answers.
It's crazy. Like to find that someone in sixth form to have that much knowledge as well.
Genuinely, yeah. He any question I asked, like he knew exactly what to say, and you know he's answering himself. It's not like he's referring me to a video. He's giving it to me, which I really respected. And
imagine that sixth form having even the maturity of being at sixth form and having these conversations. That's maturity in itself.
I remember sixth form. It was just it was a zoo. It was a zoo, straight up. I don't remember any mature people there.
No, genuinely, I bumped into the right people. So yeah, I would always question them.
So then, what made you think, okay, yeah, I want to commit to this, or I want to go deeper into this?
There was many points. I think one point in particular in regards to my friends was I remember we were sitting at the back, like in our back garden, and we were eating and talking. And I remember it was time to pray. And all three of them got up, and I remember one of them just said to me, oh, like, by the way, we're going to go pray, you're just going to have to wait here. And they all three went. They all walked, like, synchronized, walked together. And I was just like, yeah, I kind of want to join them still. I want to join you guys. I don't know why. I just wanted to join. Like, it was, like, at this point, I'm already convinced about the logic behind Islam. I'm already convinced that there's no other religion except this. That this is the last religion that exists, in my opinion. And for me, it was now looking at the values, the morals, and those friends that I had in sixth form, like they exemplified what it meant to be a genuine Muslim. At this point, I'm like, because I genuinely believe that there are so many non-Muslims that do believe that Islam is the truth. But what they need is that extra step of why? Okay, fine, I accept it, but why should I join this community? Is the community going to accept me? Because they probably have come from other communities where they haven't felt true love. And I saw that through my friends. And I was like, I don't care what the media says. I don't care what other people have to say. I see it through you.
Yeah.
So
this is your own truth. Like no one can actually contest it.
So, you know, and I think obviously it takes someone that is sincere to like obviously see that. And, you know, obviously I always try my best to be as sincere as possible. But in that moment, I saw it, like, it was genuinely like, wow, like, you know, sorry, my voice cracked. I was like, wow, like, this is, you know, what I want to be a part of. This is the family that I want to join.
So did you join them in praying, or did he say to them that?
I didn't, because my friend didn't want me to, but he allowed me to come visit and watch, like, everyone pray. So he would say, you can come in and just sit down and, you know, watch. And my main friend, the one that was very knowledgeable, he didn't want me to pray. He was like, well, why are you going to pray? You're not going to get any reward. Like, there's no point. But that didn't stop me, because one day I actually snuck in during Friday prayer and I actually prayed behind everyone.
Oh, that's nice.
And I remember all my friends, like, not even just my friends, even people from my classes were looking at me like, are you a Muslim? Like, what's going on? What just happened? But I didn't say anything. I just kept quiet. I looked down. I was like, ooh, like, I don't know if I'm making a mistake.
Yeah.
I remember I just followed the person in front of me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember after that, you know, I would even practice praying at home.
Oh.
Like, it was so, I remember I prayed the wrong direction as well. Like, I still remember, and I would watch videos on how to pray, and it was nice. It was really nice. It was really therapeutic.
So what was because I know praying in Catholicism and praying in Islam is vastly different. So like, maybe you could like talk about the parts that are massively different, and like the things that you felt that were therapeutic and helped you connect with it a bit more.
I think obviously one of the biggest differences is the physical movements that you make in Islamic prayer, like salah. Like, you actually have to prostrate, and there's like an organized form to it. You know, it's not just you just getting on your knees and putting your hands together. And obviously there's things that you recite, which validate your prayer, and without it, your prayer is not valid. Christianity, yeah, there are memorized prayers like, you know, the Hail Mary and, you know, Our Father, but I did notice, and I do think this is something that I want to try like to do more of, is that when I was a Christian and when I would pray as if I'm just talking to God. Like, God, I just need to talk to you.
Yeah.
And I feel like as a Muslim that's not the case. I'm just trying to memorize stuff.
I see. Yeah.
But that shouldn't be how it is. It should actually be like
A conversation.
a conversation. Like, God knows what you're thinking.
It's hard because of the language barrier as well, because you're reciting in Arabic.
But deep down, the truth is that God knows every language. You know, God is God. Like, God knows. So you don't need to speak Arabic.
You can have when you're making like prayers, you can.
Yeah, you can speak in English. You can speak in English, it's fine. But like, I always kind of thought, oh no, I need to speak in Arabic, and you know, it's not.
It's a long day if you have to learn Arabic, bro.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, I ain't got time.
so you've now started praying. You've even like slipped into the Friday prayers. So like, was it soon after that you took Islam as a faith?
I remember it was in 2020. I remember. Yeah, like, it was probably like a month after.
Okay, wow.
Yeah, because I still was hesitant. I still wasn't sure if this is what I want to do. This is massive. This is not just a small thing. Yeah. It was when I went to King's College. Like, I went to university. That's when it started.
That's when it hit.
Yeah.
And then how did your like friends and family take it as well?
So,
like your Catholic friends, and then your Muslim friends, and then.
I told you so. Did it say that?
No, my Catholic friends, to be quite honest, they were happy. They were just like, look, if this is what you want to do, like, no problem. Like, even times where I have met up with them, and I'll tell them, like, look, guys, I need to pray. Like, they're like, no problem. Like, you know, there's no issue. And then with my Muslim friends, a lot of them were just like, oh my gosh, like, what? Like, it was crazy. But the one friend that, you know, again, that was really knowledgeable, I remember he just couldn't stop crying. And I remember one day I came out of like lesson and he was just holding a big box of chocolates and he just gave it to me, and I was like, wow, like, this is crazy. And like, yeah, he just couldn't stop crying. For him it just hit different. I feel like he was the only person that really got like really, really emotional. And I even remember one day when we were going to pray as a group, he was like to everyone, like, guys, I can't pray like in a group. I need to pray alone.
So was this in sixth form or was this in King's College?
No. So this was after the reversion.
Okay.
So when did you revert? Was that at King's College or?
No, so I reverted at King's College whilst I was in year 13.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we skipped a part there.
No. So basically, when I was in year 13, I was applying for medicine, and I got like an invite from a society that was doing mock interviews for medicine. So I went, and I didn't know that it was like not Islamic, but it was like a Muslim society.
Yeah.
It was like a charity society. So I went, and then I did the interviews. They had like two different types of interviews. So one was a panel, and then the other one was like an MMI. So you go around different circuits. So the first part I messed up, like the circuit one I messed up. Then the second one, which was the panel one, it was me sitting in front of like a brother and a sister. And even before this, the brother specifically, it was so weird because I thought he was white, but he was actually Pakistani. But like, like genuinely, I thought he was white, but he turned out to be Pakistani because he had like different colored eyes and he was really tall. And I remember I was mesmerized by him. Like, as soon as I saw him, no, genuinely, as soon as I saw him, like, especially coming from the state that I was in. I saw him and I was like, yo, like, he's a medical student.
Yeah.
You know, when you see someone, you're just like, I want
It's admiration, I think.
admiration, yeah. And I remember even before I did one of my interviews, he was like giving me advice, like, oh, you should try say this. I was like, I just couldn't stop staring at this guy. I was like, yo, like, I don't think he like clocked, but I remember when I did the panel interview with him and it was a sister, and they were asking me questions, and like I said, I didn't prepare at all. So I'm just sitting there like quiet, and they can tell that, okay, this guy's like clearly messing up. He's not prepared. So out of sympathy, I feel like they asked me, okay, just tell us something you're interested in. But I just like, it was like a reflex. Out of nowhere, I just shouted Islam.
Yeah.
And then they just looked at each other like confused, like, okay. this is a medical interview. So they said like, okay, like that's interesting. And then the brother wanted to inquire more. So he was like, you know, can I speak to you after about it? And then I was like, sure. So me and him were just in a classroom like by ourselves. And then he asked me more. He asked me like, you know, like, tell me more, I'm just interested. And then, you know, I won't lie, I broke down. Like, I was in tears because I feel like two reasons. I feel like one, I was genuinely overwhelmed by the interview itself.
Yeah.
I was but I was also overwhelmed by just life. I was overwhelmed at like all my experiences thus far, and I just felt like I had no one to turn to. So when he asked me, I just was like, yo, I can't even answer the question. It's just too much. Like, I've been through too much at this point. And so when I broke down, he was like, oh, what's wrong? Like, sit down. Like, what's wrong? Like, talk to me. And then he started breaking down, and I'm just like, in my head, I'm still crying, but in my head, I'm like, yo, you're a grown man. Like, you're not supposed to cry. Like, you're supposed to console me. Like, and then like he's crying, I'm just like, yo, like I don't know what to do. And then I remember like he told me something, and like I always remember this. He said to me, like, bro, why, like, do you think it was a coincidence that Allah's brought you here? And in my head, I'm not even thinking that deep. I'm not even thinking that far ahead. He's like, do you not think Allah brought you here? And he's
like the reason, right?
yeah, like, you know, and he said that this like story, like it's not a story, but it's like a narration that at nighttime Allah descends to the lowest heaven and he asks his angels, like, who of my servants are worshipping me? And you know, when he said that, I was like, whoa, like like the way he said it, it just hit me really deep, because the point is that, you know, Allah is always looking for his servants, like who actually wants to worship me. And you know, he says like, Allah loves you, like Allah genuinely loves you, that like there's a reason he brought you here. And then I'm just like, I'm still just like rubbing the snot off my nose, and like he's like, bro, if you want to be a Muslim, because I can see it in your eyes, like you want to be a Muslim, just be a Muslim. So I'm like, cool. He then leaves the room. I'm like, cool. Let me give me 5 minutes in it. Let me get myself together. He leaves the room, and then I tried to call my like close friend that was, again, the knowledgeable one, and he didn't get. I couldn't get to him because for some reason his phone wasn't answering. And then I remember calling a sister at the time that I was like friends with, and she was very like supportive. She was like, look, if this is something you want to do, you know, like no matter what decision, yeah, like me and all our friends, like, will still be by your side. We're still your friend, you know, like don't think anything different. And then I said, no, I want to be a Muslim. Like, this is my decision. And she's like, okay then. She's like, okay then, like, cool, we support you. And I put the phone down, and then, you know, hit the brother and like 5 other brothers, because you need like 5 witnesses, I think, came in, and that's where I took my shahada. I took it at KCO.
Wow, man, after all these interviews,
Yeah, I know.
what a story.
Yeah, I know. And then so then after that, that's when, like my friends, to answer your question before, like my friends, I told my friends, I remember just telling one person and then the whole school knew. And then, they were just, honestly, all my friends, like my old friends, my new friends, they were all just happy. Like genuinely, I like, it felt like I was entering just a new phase in my life. With my family, initially they weren't that like it was difficult because it was something new. It was new to them. However, alhamdulillah, over time it's definitely gotten better. Like I can say that for sure.
Yeah, because I think even with the family part, because the family's already multi-faith, right? There's Hinduism, there's Christianity. Like, add a bit of Islam in there. It's like shouldn't be too bad.
So Musa, let's say if there's a person who's interested in Islam, but doesn't he's not comfortable with it, he or she not comfortable with it, how would you approach as in how would you introduce Islam to them? Would you take the similar approach as what your friends did to you, or how would you do it?
I feel like, okay, assuming that they have Muslim friends, and if they've shown interest towards their Muslim friends, like they're asking questions, I 100% would say not to bombard them. I've seen it so many times where other Muslims are trying to explain Islam, but they're just bombarding them with information, and it can be very overwhelming. I think just keep it simple, but don't let that be the focus. Like, let the focus just be your character, like how you interact with that person, because that sticks more.
There was that one line I always used to hear: "If you're not Muslim, you're gonna go to hell." Oh my days! I've heard it.
Who says that?
I heard it so many times to non-believers as well. It's crazy. That's the best way to put them off, like any religion.
Oh, if you're not Muslim, then yeah. Like, don't ever mention stuff like that. Like, even look at the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. Like his companions, he didn't throw all these laws at them, like, oh, don't drink alcohol. It was never about that. It was always about character. How'd you be the best version of yourself for 13 years, and then 10 years, after like moving to Medina, it was about the laws and legislations. So same approach. Try it. I would even say try it unless they're really eager to learn about Islam and they're really asking questions directly to you. I would even say just try avoid it. Avoid the conversation because it's quite heavy. It can be heavy very quickly. You might just ask a very simple, like your non-Muslim friend could ask you a simple question and you give an answer and they're just taken aback by it. So I would say just invite them to motives. That's a very good way. Genuinely, invite them to motives. If you have a group of Muslim friends and you notice there's one non-Muslim friend, don't make them feel like they're outsiders. Don't, like, for example, try not to make jokes where they don't understand. Oh, like, we can't eat pork, like, I mean, I don't know who makes those types of jokes, but just make them feel included. Because that's how I felt with my friends. I felt like they genuinely loved me and, like, we all got along. Yeah. I didn't feel like there was a difference between us. That's the key. You don't need to sit there and say, oh, you need to go watch these videos, you need to go do this. Nah, it doesn't matter.
It should feel natural.
It should feel natural, yeah.
Exactly.
100%.
Could you give us an example of how you've made someone feel natural at uni now?
I myself haven't come across like anyone like in particular that I can like think off the top of my head, because my main group of friends are Muslim. But I would say again, like if I was to come across someone, I could give an example. There was one guy that I had met, and he was actually invited to go to an Islamic talk. And after the talk, I kept in contact with him, and then I just he's in my medical like year, so I asked him, do you want to come to this medic talk? Just simple like that.
It was a medic talk.
Yeah. So I just asked him, do you want to come? Like, I'm setting it up.
Yeah.
Feel free. Like, he said, sure, I'll come. That's it.
I have one friend as well. He's interested in Islam, but he has yet to revert, I'd say. But there was one Islamic event that was mainly speaking about like spirituality, and I was like, if there's one event that this guy can go to, it has to be this one. Because with spirituality, it doesn't matter what religion you come from, everyone will be able to connect. Because it was mainly speaking about like the heart, how to connect with the heart, how to connect with your creator. I was like, you know what? Let's invite this guy. And alhamdulillah, he actually came to it and he benefited from it. He said he could he understood pretty much 95% of what was said, even though it was an Islamic class, because everyone like has that way of connecting to your creator, to your God. It was beneficial for him.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So where would you say you're at now? So you've reverted to Islam. You reverted in what, 2020? You said.
Yeah, 2020. Just right before the first lockdown.
All right, perfect time to reflect, bro.
Was that good or bad though? How did COVID affect you?
I feel like COVID wasn't good in the sense that I wasn't able to meet my friends.
Yeah.
I wasn't able to continually learn. I had to do it mostly online. But alhamdulillah, like just before the lockdown, a older brother that I knew was setting up an online Islamic course and he invited me. So throughout the whole year, I was just doing that. But yeah, it was still difficult. You can't see your friends. I'm pretty sure everyone felt the same, you know.
Just a question on the Islamic course. Like, how similar has Islam been to Catholicism, like in terms of the core values and the things that it teaches?
There's a lot of similarity. I feel like people focus on the differences too much. There's actually so much similarity. You know, for example, the Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam or Joseph in the Bible, the story is almost identical. There's barely any differences. So when I was learning about Yusuf, in my head I was like, I already know this.
Yeah.
You know.
Same with like Noah and Moses as well, right?
like-
The stories are.
The story of Noah, to be honest, like it's pretty much the same.
Yeah.
I'd say like Yunus or Jonah. I'd say Moses specifically. The Quran has a bit more detail. There's like I feel like that's way more detailed than the Bible from my like knowledge and from my like understanding. The only key difference is Jesus. Like that's obviously completely different. But yeah, like all the prophets is pretty much the same. And again, like the core values and like what they teach, you know, is pretty much the same.
One thing that when I tell Christian people, they're always fascinated about is the similarity of angels.
Never thought of that.
Yeah, because we have the same angels, right? We have Gabriel, Jibreel.
Yeah.
So when people are like, oh, actually, yeah, it's the same angel.
Yeah.
It's like, it's the same faith, man.
Exactly.
Exactly.
I feel like when we focus more on the similarities, it's easier. It's easier to have a conversation without feeling like, oh, this person is trying to get me, or this person is trying to undermine my faith.
Yeah. So when you're doing the Islamic course, it didn't feel like something alien because it's pretty much similar, right? It's just
Yeah, no, it felt like pretty much I was learning something new, but then there were certain bits where it's like, oh, I'm just building on, you know, what I already knew from Christianity.
Okay.
And what about after COVID? So after COVID died down.
Yeah, this is really interesting. So after COVID, I went to Speaker's Corner. You know, that was like a place that I always wanted to go to because I was just interested to see, you know, these Muslim speakers in person. And I bumped into someone who was a born Muslim, and I remember, you know, Speaker's Corner can get a bit like, you know, rowdy. I remember after one like crazy event, I remember he kind of like spoke up and he basically said to me and like a few other reverts, you know, this isn't how Muslims should be. Like, we need to be like, as a community, we need to be together. And I remember all of us were just looking at each other, like just nodding our heads, like, yeah, like this is, I'm with him. Like, whatever he's saying, it makes sense. Since that time, so this was like 2021, since then, it's been like 2 years now, he basically formed a group of just reverts. So, like anyone that's a revert, it doesn't necessarily mean, it's not like you have to be a revert to join. Like even if you're a born Muslim and you want support, like you can join, but it's mainly for reverts, where we literally show support. Like there's so many reverts in that group, Jamaican reverts, French reverts, what's the other ones? Nigerian, like there's loads. And like we just do events every month and we're still doing it 2 years straight. Like like monthly events where we go to different places. Like I was talking to you about the Cambridge Central Mosque. Like we went there like together to Cambridge to visit the mosque, and then we went punting. I almost fell off the boat. But we do amazing things. And then even like recently, a revert that we knew, he was a Jamaican revert, got evicted. He was homeless. Couldn't live with his family because of difference in religion and obviously other issues. So we ended up like renting a van. This was actually very recent, by the way. We rented a van and then we drove to pick him up, take all his stuff, and then move him somewhere else.
Oh wow.
Yeah, like that's we're still continuing that thing that I've learned from my friends.
Yeah.
Being a good person, just being like
Yeah.
showing that good character, and then even one other Revert, again, like he's come from France. He doesn't know anyone else.
Yeah.
He doesn't have family. Like he can barely speak English, and we're always there to support him. And I remember when his younger brother passed away, no one was there to like show him support. It was only us,
That's heavy.
you know, and like being in that group like since then has taught me so much about what Islam is all about. Like it's all about brotherhood.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's really beautiful, honestly.
Yeah, because there's brotherhood, and then there's also actually like showing up, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
And that's the biggest thing. Like,
Yeah, I was gonna say like there's a lot of people, especially when you revert, and I'm pretty sure other reverts can vouch for this. Loads of people will tell you like, oh, congratulations, like we're here for you. After a few months, they disappear. Like genuinely, and it's actually not even like it's actually sad. Those brothers that I had met, still to this day are with me. Like, and there's other brothers that like the ones that were in sixth form that are still with me, you know. But I remember when I reverted, there were so many others that just said it. And I'm sure they had good intentions. I'm sure everyone's busy. I'm always gonna assume the best, but it's like you said. There's words, and then there's actually showing up.
Exactly.
You know.
And I think that's the biggest part about Islam as well, is that you can have all these values, but it's actually putting them to practice. That's where the actual practice of Islam is.
Yeah, definitely.
So, where would you say you're at now then?
So right now, I feel like COVID was definitely. I tried not to even think that COVID was like a part of the journey because there was a lot of complications, and I even feel like my first year of university last year, it was such a blur. Like it was so like I was just thrown back into normal life, and I just feel like I wasn't able to really develop myself as a Muslim. Yes, I was going to lessons and I was going to classes, and I was still meeting new faces, but deep down I felt like there was something missing. And so my journey now is, I feel like there's a saying, you know, how you act in public, it should reflect how you act in private, and vice versa. And I feel like although in public I was putting on this like, you know, I'm a good Muslim, I'm new, in private it wasn't the same. And I feel like now I'm like it's slowly like coming together where it's synchronized, where my life in private is the same as my life in public.
Yeah, it takes a big step to reflect on yourself and actually think, am I doing it for other people? Am I doing it for God?
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like that, what you just said, it really shows when you're in private. It really shows like, okay, because you could be acting like this great Muslim, like, oh, like he prays, he fasts, like, oh, he's got a big beard, like, but how are you like in private? Are you the same? Are you that same good Muslim that prays all the time and is good to people? You know, that's where it shows.
Treating your parents right. It's all about sincerity as well.
Exactly. Because sometimes we always ask, like, how do you know if someone's sincere? Look at how they are when they're alone, you know? And again, like, I feel like my journey right now is always trying to make sure that is the same. And it doesn't happen overnight. It takes a very, very long time.
Yeah, because it's tricky because, you know, when you're going through that journey and when you're alone, no one else is going to see what you're doing. But obviously, you know, God can see you, right? So I think the tricky part is when you're alone and you're reflecting, it's like you have to be honest with yourself because no one else is going to be honest for you. Like you're sitting by yourself, you have to address like, oh, you're doing these things, it's not completely right. But even the act of addressing how you feel and saying these things aren't right, and I accept that they're not right. That's a massive first step.
It's diseases of the heart, man. You have to self-diagnose yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Be your own doctor, you know?
Literally. Yeah, so
Good thing about it is though, I've been able to see Musa's like progress firsthand because at university, like luckily I was able to meet this guy right at the start. Like, I did not. Apparently, we had a rough start.
Can I say that? Can I mention it?
Sure.
So basically, I was speaking to a friend who was in his year because he was actually in the year above, and I was having a great talk with this guy. We were just standing outside at the library just talking, and what? Like this guy just comes out of nowhere and is just talking to him. He doesn't even like acknowledge I exist.
Oh my God.
He doesn't acknowledge my existence, right? And he's speaking to him and he's just talking and he's fully interrupted the conversation.
I'm literally like this.
Yeah, like, and I'm looking at him and I'm just thinking like, what a little punk. Like, what a punk. Like, why did this guy just do this? He didn't even like salam me. Like, I was giving like, him eye contact as well. Like, I was expecting him to just like look at me at least so I can acknowledge my existence.
I actually do not remember this. Like, I'm sure.
I remember he was wearing a blue tech fleece. I'll never forget. Like,
Exactly what you want.
yeah, so after that, like, he just left. Like, again, didn't acknowledge I was there, just left. And I was like, well, hope I never see that guy again. And then, like, subhanAllah, I see this guy the next year. And, yeah, man, it was crazy. Like, I genuinely, it was weird because I remember seeing you, but I actually forgot about that situation.
Yeah. Until I wore a blue tech piece.
I think so.
must have jumped in
You were the clothes you were wearing were like very smart. Like it was completely different. So I didn't really recognize you. And then yeah, from there it's just been it's been amazing.
It also, to add on to like brotherhood, especially with university, it's helped to me and Musa a lot because we are now able to study an environment where you're free to practice your faith, but you're also surrounded by brothers who are willing to help you. So just like how Musa said, he has the group of Revert who are always coming together to help each other out. Personally for me, now I'm surrounded by a brotherhood at university, including Musa, who are willing to like go out of their way for me. I've never had that before where people are like on WhatsApp, except for family, actually checking up on me, like, have you got home? Did you get home safely? Have you studied well? Or even throughout the day, how are you? Like, do you want to pray together? It's like
a second family, right?
Yeah, it's just so nice, man.
Yeah.
Very grateful for it. Very, very grateful.
Yeah, I can relate. I can resonate with that.
Oh, that's so cute, guys. So I think what will be interesting is like we wanna bring you back on maybe in 6 months' time, and see, like we'll remember what this conversation is like, and then we want to see where you're at spiritually, or like the things that you've learned that are profound in 6 months' time as well. Because you were talking about that balance between your private life and public life, like how that transforms over time as well. And I think one question I'd like to ask you, because we might have a lot of viewers that are on this journey too, right, early on. If you could say to them like 1 or 2 profound things that they could look into that would make them either like search the truth within Christianity or give them a reason to search, what 1 or 2 things would you say that they could look into?
I would say, look, if a Christian is watching and listening, they might be strong in their belief. I feel like it's, before even looking into anything, having that sincerity to be like, okay, I want to take a step back and assess not just Christianity, not just Islam, all religions, all faiths, all beliefs that are possible. Even atheism, like, why is atheism not true, or is it true? Like, look into it, and then do a comparison. See what makes the most sense. And I'd also say, aside from doing your own personal research, whether that be online, reading books, I'd say also having conversations with people. I feel like when you have conversations with people, it really jogs your brain to think. If someone's questioning you, and you're like, if someone asks you what's your name, you're going to answer that straight away. It's like when someone asks you about your faith and your belief, you should be that convinced, that this is the truth, that it shouldn't take you time to, think. But when you're speaking to people, it allows you to kind of, think, oh, is this true? Is it not? So I think that's definitely something. And I think one thing that is, I would say, is learn about Jesus from an Islamic perspective. I feel like, because from a Christian will think, okay, why am I going to learn about Islam? Okay, at least look at what's the major similarity. We both believe Jesus is the Messiah, and that he was born the Virgin Mary. At least from that, okay, then as a Christian you could think, okay, then where's the difference? Like, what's going on? Like, why is there 2 different religions then? And investigate. That's what I would say.
That's actually a good way to look at it, for sure.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
All right. Well, I think that concludes episode 2. Many thanks to Musa as well for sharing his delightful story. Oh, we're gonna shake hands, yeah. And I think in a few months' time we'll invite you again.
Yeah,
and
I'll be happy to. I'll be happy to come. Yeah.
We'll revisit this. I think
definitely.
it'd be very interesting to see your journey.
Yeah.
And if the people ask, we can get him even.
Oh, even questions and answers. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Drop your questions in the comments below. And Musa, is there any way that they can reach you?
No, there isn't.
We leave it to the comments then.
Just say in the comments.
All right, cool. Well, thank you for joining, guys, and we'll catch you on the next episode. Ciao.
Bro, is that cup on the floor?
Like, it's mixed.
Have you finished with the cup?
Oh, he asked us for it.
Huh?